What's going on YouTube? It's Giga here, bringing you some more Series 10 rental teams. So as we are back at the start of the month, it means we have 5 new rental teams for people to check out. Once again, we are using 5 separate restricteds that we haven't used before. And before I start talking a little bit about the teams, I have to give a huge shout out to both Tom Elefante and Chris Wrights for hosting these teams. Words can't express how thankful I am for the two of them. All of my spots have been filled up, and I had to already use like a second account just for that. And the fact that both of them were so willing to step up and help me out with this was incredibly huge. So if you appreciate the teams, if you use them, or if you want to comment on these videos, make sure definitely to thank the two of them for really stepping up. Like I said, I can't even begin to express how thankful I am to have both of them help out with this. So hopefully these teams are worth it. As always, well, not as always, in the description you can find a relevant document that does have all of the pastes, the codes, as well as all sort of the relevant calcs for these teams if you find that helpful. So first of all, we do have this Xerneas team. It is a pretty standard in the sense that it is Xerneas next to Amoonguss, with the idea that this is a fairly bulky Xerneas. It mainly just wants to be able to outspeed an Alecki after Geomancy, but we are still getting fairly big hits on most of the main restricteds after setting up that Geomancy, mainly into things like Calyrex-Shadow, Kyogre, and it also does very well into Rillaboom, having the chance to KO standard Rillaboom after a Moonblast. Also on the defensive side, we are able to guaranteed survive a Mystic Water Kyogre Water Spout. So in the event that they set up and then go for that, we will be able to live and then hit them back. We will be able to survive an Astral Barrage fairly well. We also can take things like a Sludge Bomb from Landorus. I wanted to make sure that we could live that before setting up. Yeah, and then finally, yeah, we are a 3-hit KO from standard Rillaboom from Grassy Glide, just to make sure that we are able to set up and not really have to worry, as Rillaboom tends to be a big counter for standard Xerneas. So next up, we do have Amoonguss. This has the option of Pollen Puffing to self-heal, as well as Grass Knot. Grass Knot mainly for things like Kyogre. It also does do fairly good damage into Stack Attack'em, which I thought was really important, just given the fact that Stack Attack is such a very good answer for Xerneas. On the defensive side, it is able to survive an Expanding Force from Calyrex outside of terrain, so that can definitely be important. It takes Rock Slides from Stack very well. It will be able to survive a Sacred Fire from Entei, mainly due to the fact that you have Aqua Berry. And finally, it also is going to be able to survive Ice Beams from Kyogre pretty comfortably, allowing you to go for big Grass Knots when faced against that. Next up, we have this Assault Vest Ensign. So one thing I actually really wanted to try with this month is go for faster Ensign and Rillaboom. I felt like I've always used 4-speed, so this is a pretty fast one. It is able to outspeed 4-speed Hitmontops and Politoads, so it hits 92, I think, which I thought was a pretty relevant number, just because of the fact that it will, on top of outspeeding those, it will also outspeed a lot of common faced Ensigns that you'll see. So having Throat Chop, I think, is really big to stop things like Snarl and Parting Shot, two things that Xerneas really has to be afraid of. And it also, by going with the Assault Vest, we are able to invest a lot more in bulk. So, or not bulk, in physical bulk. So we're able to eat things pretty comfortably, like a Close Combat from Mineshaw. We are able to live a Precipice Blades from Groudon, survive all sorts of Close Combats from Zacians fairly comfortably, and still like survive on the defensive side, right? Like we do have a chance to live a Life Orb Earth Power from Landorus, which I thought was pretty good. We can't 100% guarantee it, but it is only a 12.5% chance to KO, and those are odds that I thought, you know, are pretty important. Next up, we have Mineshaw, pretty standard Mineshaw. We opted for Knockoff mainly to stop opposing Xerneas from setting up, right? Because if you can hit Knockoff before they can Geomancy, I thought that was really important. You also are able to deal with Calyrex-Shadow as a result of having Knockoff, and you're not kind of just left dead in the water versus it, and then Feint to break through any sort of protects in the face of Xerneas. So I opted not for Wide Guard, because the main answers for, or the main things that are going for Wide Guard, we do have very good answers for, right? Like if it's Calyrex, we do have Sash on Mineshaw and obviously have Knockoff. We also do have Incineroar. If it's going to be like a Kyogre, we do have a Moongus. We also do have Gastrodon, so neither of those are going to be worried about a Water Spout. And finally, if it is an opposing Xerneas, we do have Nihilego, we do have a Moongus, we do have Incineroar. We also do have Xerneas of our own. So Wide Guard felt a little bit unnecessary overall, and I think this kind of options really helps. And also, Knockoff can be a really good support option if there's something like a Scarf Entei, being able to knock that off, or getting rid of Assault Vest to really sort of help Xerneas deal big damage. So next up, we do have Gastrodon. Gastrodon really here is kind of the main answer for Zacian more than anything, as well as Kyogre. Using Earth Power, we are able to pretty much beat most standard Zacians one-on-one, where they're not really doing much damage into us, and we can hit back with, like I said, a strong Earth Power. We also do have Scald to get big burns on things and things that might necessarily resist Earth Power, mainly something like a Landorus. Unfortunately, you're not going to be KOing that Landorus, but at the same time, I think it ends up being fine. Scald usually will do enough in the rain to make up for it. We also do have Recover, mainly just for longevity, right? You want to be able to survive some big hits, and then over time really use that defensive bulk of Gastrodon along with its just pretty strong offensive capability to finish things off. And finally, wrapping things up, we do have Nihilego. So this is a little bit interesting, right? Most people expect Nihilego to have Meteor Beam, but because of the fact that we do have the Power Herb on Xerneas, we couldn't go with that. And I thought that a substitute variant would be really optimal, right? It lets us kind of have a little bit more defensive capability than Nihilego tends to offer, while still having a lot of that offensive presence due to things like Life Orb and just Nihilego's sheer power. Also, because of the fact that we do have Pollen Puff on Amoonguss, we are able to potentially heal it up. So I thought that that was really great. We do outspeed standard Xerneas with Nihilego because of the fact that we are running max speed, and we still have a lot of pretty good chances. We still have a pretty good chance to KO Xerneas before it sets up. We also do have a solid chance to 2-hit KO it even after it sets up a Moonblast. I mean, not a Moonblast, a Geomancy. We still have very good damage into things like Rillaboom and Incineroar, despite the fact that we aren't running Power Herb. Despite the fact that we aren't running Power Herb and Meteor Beam. And then also on the defensive side, we are able to tank hits pretty well. We can take a +2 Moonblast fairly comfortably. It is a small chance to 2-hit KO, but if there's something like Grassy Terrain, that is not going to happen. And finally, we can also eat up Grassy Glides from Rillaboom, which does let us fire off big Sludge Bombs in return to try and pick up the big KOs. So that's the Xerneas team. Xerneas, as it has been named, definitely make sure to check that out if that's your playstyle. And yeah, let's just move to the next team. All right, so next up we have the Lunawatts team, or the Lunala team. So I thought this was a pretty cool way of running Lunala, where you do have flexibility both of setting up Trick Room, where you have good things under that. You also do have Tailwind Suicune just to provide you more of a faster support. So trying to figure out kind of the best way to navigate between the two. So on an offensive side, Moongeist Beam, pretty good answer into things like Kyogre. Meteor Beam also is going to do a really significant chunk into things like Incineroar. I think Lunala just overall is a pretty solid option. Meteor Beam giving you that boost to your special attack I think is really great. And then Moongeist Beam just being a very powerful option. One thing obviously to be a little bit careful of just is the fact that you do have fairly limited PP on Moongeist Beam, and that really is going to be your main sort of damage dealer, especially after you've gone for Meteor Beam. So a little bit weary of that, but overall I still think it's a really good option. On sort of a defensive side, I think that's where Lunala really shines, mainly due to having that Shadow Shield, where you are going to be able to tank things like an Astral Barrage from Calyrex, so no need to worry about that. You also easily tank a Water Spout from Kyogre, and regardless of the variant, you are able to just do a ton of damage back into that. So overall, I think a very good defensive option for setting up Trick Room. It really deals with the big hitters of the format. Important to note is you cannot survive a Wicked Blow from Standard Urshifu, but given how uncommon Urshifu really is, I felt like that wasn't really too much of an issue. So moving on, we do have a Grassy Seed Stakataka. I think that this is such a powerful option in Trick Room, where in the fact that once you get a boost from Assault Vet or from Rillaboom, you just have such strong body presses. You will beat opposing Stakatakas and can really set up from there. This is a very specially defensive variant though, mainly just being able to soak up a lot of hits like Moonblast. It can very easily soak up hits from things on the special side, primarily things like Calyrex. That was really the big one. It can survive an Astral Barrage, whereas most variants of Stack Attack cannot, even with that wide guard. And because of the fact that we are getting +1 defense from Rillaboom, like we can still afford to do that. We still are able to take things like a close combat from Inner Shifu and still pick up big KOs back. So overall, I think Stack running it this way, it seems like a little bit weird, but we still are getting relevant KOs despite not having much attack investment. We still are able to soak up big things on the special side, and then Body Press really lets us steamroll once we're able to start getting a boost. So next up, we do have Rillaboom. Once again, we are going sort of a faster variant. So this Rillaboom is in mind of outspeeding modest 0-speed Palkia. So when you're facing down Palkias that want to set up Trick Room, we are going to be able to outspeed them and go for big things like Grassy Glide. So pretty standard here, pretty standard set. Like I said, the one thing to be a little bit weary of is going to be the fact that we only have Grassy Glide for dealing with Kyogre, but we also do have knockoff, so I think that that is going to be fine on our end. This is a fairly bulky Rillaboom, mainly because of the fact that I wanted to be able to survive 2 Astral Barrages from Calyrex. So if I needed to switch into an Astral Barrage and then go for a knockout, or a knockoff the next turn, I wanted to be able to do that. So that's really what that is for. We still are getting big hits, like we're getting a 2-hit KO onto Regieleki, we're getting 2-hit KOs onto Urshifu Rapid Strike, and a pretty good chance to 3-hit KO onto Xerneas, which is definitely a little less than ideal, but because of the fact that they potentially have to use a turn to set up, we should win that war 1v1. We can take things like I said, a +2 Moonblast fairly comfortably. We survive a Flare Blitz from Incineroar that has only 4 attack investment, and so overall, just like I said, a pretty good option. So moving on, next for our speed control, we do have Suicune. So while there is the Trick Room option, there is also the Tailwind option, and that really comes from the Suicune. It is fast enough just to outspeed Calyrex-Shadow, so once you get that up, you are going to be able to hit it first with Snarl. You are able to tank hits pretty well. You do fairly good damage into Calyrex-Shadow with that. You also have Ice Beam, mainly just to KO Landorus. I didn't think that Icy Wind was worth it, just given the fact that I care really more about that KO. Also, it does a lot more into Rillaboom, which I think is important. And it also does have a very good damage output into Regieleki, being pretty much a KO, or a 2-hit KO. Whereas on the defensive side, you are going to have a 3-hit KO from Astral Barrage after Leftovers Recovery. You do survive a 3-hit KO from Earth Power. You will be able to be 2-hit KO'd by Rillaboom Grassy Glide for most variants. And similarly, you're never going to be one-shot by Thunderbolt from Regieleki. So overall, Suicune does offer a lot of defensive typing. It also does have the ability to hit really big on the offensive side. And then, can pick up some big knockouts on scary Pokemon and provide speed control. So overall, a really good option for the team. I think it provides some nice rounding out, and it really does what the team needs. So next up, we do have Volcarona. We're back using that Rocky Helmet variant. I think that's honestly my favorite item on it. Once again, we are going to just try and outspeed Calyrex after Tailwind. That was really the main objective here. And also we do have the option of setting up with Quiver Dance. I think Quiver Dance Volcarona outside of Trick Room is like a very, very powerful option. It does deal well with Zacians primarily. It can take a Behemoth Blade fairly well. It is unfortunately a guaranteed 2-hit KO, but we are having the chance of burning it with Flame Body. We also do have Rocky Helmet to just really accumulate any sort of damage in the long run. We do have Giga Drain. Giga Drain just is a nice option to try and heal some health up. So as we start setting up, that's going to get way, way, way more powerful. It is going to be at +1 a guaranteed one-shot onto Urshifu Rapid Strike. So that's definitely a nice option where if they switch it in as you set up a Quiver Dance, they expect to try and be able to KO you, and you can just KO them first. So like I said, overall, a really nice option because Urshifu Rapid Strike definitely is something scary into Volcarona, but having the ability to set up and then recover and KO back is really huge. And then also Fiery Dance, gonna KO most standard Zacians, has a really good matchup into things like Xerneas, and you can sort of outpace it by going for continued Quiver Dances while they're forced to go for attacks. And then finally, to wrap things up, we do have Naganadel. I thought Naganadel overall is a really good endgame sweeper. While it's not necessarily picking up a lot of KOs on its own, it can really easily finish down a team once they're weakened. So the main speed calc for this was outspeeding Tapu Lele with a Choice Scarf, because that really, in my mind, was the thing to hit. Because, while you can outspeed a Lecky, I didn't really think that that was worth it, especially because of the fact that we do have a lot of good answers for it. So we are able to outspeed Choice Scarf Max Speed Lele, which in my mind is like the most important calc to hit. And then, like I said, you are just going to be able to pick up a lot of big hits. You are able to KO opposing Calyrex with Dark Pulse. I thought that that was a really big deal. It is a little bit unfortunate of the fact that you need to use Dark Pulse. You can't really use something else. But we do have Fire Blast for things like Zacian. We have Sludge Bomb for things like Xerneas. We have Dark Pulse for Calyrex. And then Draco Meteor, overall, just a really big hit. So it is able to take some hits because of the fact that we were able to move some bulk around. So like you are able to survive a Sludge Bomb from Xerneas. You are able to take, I think, an Ice Beam from or you are able to survive a Water Spout from Kyogre. So if they are Scarfed and they go for that first, you can fire back with a big Draco Meteor and kind of make that Kyogre pretty useless. And then, like I said, really just a cleanup for when you've dealt a lot of damage, because this is kind of a passive team, and I think having Stack Attacka on that Trick Room option as a cleaner and a Gonadale on the non-Trick Room option is really important. So Lunala team, I think it's a lot of fun, a lot of flexibility in that in terms of how you want to use it. But yeah, this is the second team, and let's just keep rocking and rolling and move to the next one. All right, next team is an Eternatus team, but before I talk about the team, I need to talk about the name. Xerneas, I thought that was hilarious. I almost spit out my water when I read that. It's hilarious. Honestly, worth using the team just for the name. I think it's great. But let's talk a little bit about this. This is a kind of passive, I guess, Eternatus team, where this is going to be that standard sort of bulky Eternatus with Cosmic Power Recover. There is potentially an argument for Dynamax Cannon over Sludge Bomb for mainly the opposing Eternatus, but I thought that that's kind of fine. This Eternatus is going to be able to outspeed Minechow, which in my mind really was the only thing where it was worth kind of going that high, where I think there are things that are faster that can potentially be more of an issue, but going past that and investing all that extra speed wasn't really worth it, because I did want to get as much bulk as we can. So we are able to still pick up some pretty good KOs. We do really good damage into Zacian. We are able to 2-hit KO it with Flamethrower. Sludge Bomb into Kyogre is still doing a lot. Similarly, it is a 2-hit KO on Xerneas. We can do really good damage having the guaranteed 2-hit KO onto Rillaboom with Assault Vest with Sludge Bomb, and if they're not Assault Vest, it is a guaranteed KO. So overall, it does have that ability just to deal a lot of damage, but also survive a lot of hits, where one-on-one, it should be able to beat Zacian by going for constant recovery, using Black Sludge and stuff like that. We are going to be able to... We have the chance to survive an Expanding Force from Calyrex. It's about a 50% chance to live, which is, I think, something to keep in mind. But I think we do have enough good answers for Calyrex that it's not super big a deal, but when it comes down to it, it is important. Astral Barrage, not really going to do that much. It does have a pretty good chance to 2-hit KO, but at the same time, being able to use Black Sludge Recovery and also just having Recover in general can really help with that to try and like wear down some PP. And then similarly, it does survive an Ice Beam from Kyogre. So I thought that was important. Next up, we do have Ninetales. I thought having Hail Chip was going to be really great too, just because of the fact that Hail isn't really a weather you see too often, and it can really help change games in your favor by getting rid of the weather for something like a Groudon or a Kyogre. Also, Blizzard, I think, just does a ton of damage, and not a lot of people are really prepared for it because of the fact that it's not a common weather you see, and it just puts on a ton of pressure. Similarly, Aurora Veil offering some defensive capability, I think, is very important because of the fact that now we are sponging hits a lot better, and we're setting up Hail to do chip. So really great in terms of defensive option. Blizzard, like I said, picks up big KOs. Moonblast, just to round out the coverage, it can really help against things like an Urshifu, which can potentially cause problems, right? Ignoring any sort of screens or boosts, or also just really any sort of thing that takes super effective from Fairy. It does good damage into Incineroar, which is an important thing, and then just kind of providing some good chip that isn't spread. So in the event that there's something with Wide Guard, we have an option for that. So next up, we do have Landorus. So this Landorus has the ability to outspeed Mineshout at -1. We do have speed control with Gyarados with Icy Wind, so I thought that that was once again the most important thing in terms of those calcs. We do have Stealth Rock. I think once again this team is very much about dealing slow incremental damage with things like Hail. You also, like I said, have Stealth Rock because there is going to be a lot of switching. You also do have Rocky Helmet, so in the event someone wants to pivot out of you, like with a U-turn, they're gonna take a ton from Stealth Rock when they switch back in. They're also gonna lose some from Rocky Helmet, and also there is going to be that Hail Chip. So overall, all about really building up that incremental chip over time. We also do have Rock Tomb for more speed control. I forgot that that was there. We do have Earth Power, really mainly for things like Zacians as well as Incineroar. Having really good damage into both of those, has a good chance to 2-hit KO a standard Zacian, as well as it will be a guaranteed 2-hit KO onto Incineroar, where they're not really doing too much. Rock Tomb, like I said, offering just the ability to reduce speed on your opponents can sometimes be nice, especially against something like a Volcarona. And finally, U-turn to pivot out and reset Intimidate. Aleki, pretty standard, not much to say about it. It just kind of does damage, has speed control, and can Volt Switch and pivot out kind of as needed. So while we are taking advantage of the fact that we can use Stealth Rock to reduce how well our opponents can pivot, we also do have the ability to pivot really well with having 3 things that can switch out. So really, yeah, not much to say there. Next up, we have Gyarados. This is going to be fast enough to outspeed standard Adamant Rillaboom with 4 speed. I thought that that was pretty important just because having it be a little bit faster is always important. We do have double Intimidate, so really going to help against opposing Zacians, right? Like, they're not going to be able to do too much damage there, but we still are fairly offensive, being able to take advantage of the fact that we have Assault Vest to help deal some special hits, we have Intimidate to deal with physical hits, and we do have Aurora Veil to really give us those defensive boosts. So we are going to be able to 3-hit KO Zacian with no bulk, so I thought that that was really important, especially as Hail Chip builds up over time. That'll help deal with some of the more bulkier variants. We also have a 3-hit KO into Xerneas, and finally Power Whip is a 2-hit KO onto opposing Kyogres, and Crunch, easy KO onto Calyrex. Then on sort of the defensive side, we are going to be 2-hit KO'd by Play Rough, so we are going to be kind of needing to rely on switching in order to use Intimidate more fully, but still, if they don't have Play Rough, like, there's not really much to worry about on that side. Astral Barrage is going to be a 2-hit KO, so that's going to let us survive a hit and then go for a Crunch back, which I thought was important. And also, we can take a +2 Moonblast from Xerneas fairly comfortably. So I thought that oh, sorry, real quick. So we actually survived a +2 Astral Barrage from Calyrex. So I thought that that was really important in the event that it was able to set up. We can still take a hit and KO it with Crunch. And similarly, we can comfortably take a +2 Moonblast from Xerneas. So overall, really sort of good option for a lot of these things that like to set up and get big damage in the end game. Like Gyarados is a really great answer into Kyogre, Xerneas, and Calyrex. And then finally, we do have Scizor with Choice Band. It hits really hard. Bullet Punch is a 2-hit KO on Xerneas. Dual Wing Beat's going to KO standard Amoonguss. Does a ton into into Rillaboom. I'm pretty sure it's a guaranteed KO depending on the spread. I forget, what are you? That is, yeah. So you will be able to KO a standard Rillaboom, which I thought was awesome. Thief, really cool tech that I stole from Tom. Lets you KO Calyrex, and also is going to do more than a Night Slash because of the fact that you are getting the boost. And hey, in the event that you get knock-offed, you can potentially get an item back, which isn't unheard of. So I think that is definitely worth considering. One thing of note with this team is you only have Protect on 2 Pokemon, and you are doing a lot of Chip. So similarly, while you are using Hail Chip to your advantage, you are also taking Hail Chip. So definitely something to consider. But overall, I think a really fun team. You are able to survive a lot of hits and deal a lot of damage back, but it can get a little bit dicey, especially once Hail is up. But this is the Eternatus team. Really recommend it for people that like sort of the more slow style where you want to set up and play the long game out. So with that, let's just keep rocking and move to the next one. All right, next team is Necrozma. So this is going to be Necrozma Dusk Mane. I thought this was a pretty cool way of running it, where we do have Trick Room, and we also, more importantly, are bringing back the Rain Core from Zoo Pals. So talking a little bit about Necrozma, it is a pretty standard set, having Photon Geyser and Sunsteel Strike for damage, Protect, the ability to set up Trick Room, and it also does have that weakness policy, right? Having the Prism armor means that you pretty much are guaranteed to survive most hits. I actually haven't even seen anything that really has a guaranteed KO onto Necrozma, and so we're able to eat that up, go for either a Trick Room or big damage back. Getting to +2 with the weakness policy means that you are able to do a lot of big damage, like picking up one shots onto onto Zacian. Similarly, guaranteed KO just onto a lot of things like Xerneas. You do fairly good damage into Kyogre with Photon Geyser, and just like overall really nice option in terms of damage. Next up, we do have Dusclops. Dusclops is going to be our main way of proccing that weakness policy using Shadow Sneak, and also providing us with a second Trick Room setter. So in the event that we can't lead with Dusclops, or not with Dusclops, with Necrozma, having Dusclops as a backup is important. Frisk is really great, lets you see what items your opponent has, and you're just able to take a lot of hits, right? You're guaranteed to survive an Astral Barrage from Calyrex, you're guaranteed to survive Wicked Blow from Urshifu, you're guaranteed to survive a +2 Moonblast from Xerneas, can take a Behemoth Blade from Zacian, and can survive a Water Spout from Kyogre. So all of these things guarantee that you have pretty much guarantee you have a way of setting up Trick Room, right? Like, you can't stop Trick Room on Dusclops unless you double up into it or go for something like a Taunt. So next up, we'll talk about the Rain Core. Politoed Parasong, I think, is really great just as a way to kind of wrap up games that go for a little bit of a longer time. Haze to stop boosts from your opponents. You are able to survive a +2 Moonblast from Xerneas and then get rid of all of that boost, which I think is hugely important. And also in the event that you can't trigger the policy on Necrozma and you're being intimidated a bunch, being able to get rid of those drops, I think is great. Also, you can get rid of the boost on Zacian, so that's definitely something to look out for to help reduce damage. Scald really is our big hitter, even though we don't have a lot of special attack investment. The fact that there is Rain Up is just going to help us out. Next up, Kingdra. Kingdra, we are going with the Expert Belt once again because we don't have access to Life Orb. We just are doing big damage. We outspeed Alecki after getting up the Swift Swim, and then we have 2-hit KOs onto a lot of things, including Zacian, including Rillaboom, including Calyrex as well. Just like big damage overall. Ice Beam over Icy Wind, mainly because I thought the speed control wasn't too much of an issue, and the ability to one-shot Landorus was too important because of the fact that Landorus does do big damage into Necrozma. Next up, Pincurchin. Pincurchin is slow. It sets up Electric Surge, so we don't have to worry about Amoonguss, which is super important. It also is an electric type to help deal with the electric weakness as a result of running Politoed and Moltres. And yeah, it does big damage. It KOs Calyrex. Rising Voltage, pretty much a 2-hit KO onto most things. Scald gets boosted by the rain, picks up big damage. Like, it hits really hard. There's not much to say about that. It's slow. It hits hard. One thing of note is it is going to be faster than Stakataka, so that is something to be a little bit weary of, but Scald in the rain should be more than enough to KO it, and Stakataka should not be able to KO you back. And then finally, this is the Moltres that I built with Kanto Clark a while back. There is one little change. I opted for Sucker Punch instead of Snarl. I thought being able to KO Calyrex was slightly more important than having Snarl support. So yeah, I mean, this thing has the ability to tank a lot of hits from things like Mineshaw, Calyrex, very good defensive against Landorus, and also I'm pretty sure it can survive a Behemoth Blade. Oh no, it can't survive a Behemoth Blade, but it can survive things like a Surging Strike from Urshifu, and then it has a lot of really good ways to KO back, particularly using the fact that you are going to get Citrus Berry to boost you out of the Berserk range, so you can usually get to +2 special attack and then do a ton of damage back. So this is going to let you be able to beat things like Calyrex Mineshaw lead, which is a huge problem, right? Like, whatever you choose to target with, like, if you choose not to target the Moltres, you are going to be able to get damage out, and like, you can survive Astral Barrage, Close Combat, Astral Barrage. So if they fake out and then the subsequent turn go for Close Combat, Astral Barrage, you will be able to live that and KO back. You are able to beat things like Landorus, which can cause problems to Necrozma. You are able to beat Urshifu Water, which can really take advantage of the rain to deal with Necrozma. And overall, like, it just provides a lot of really good defensive support. It can also take a Water Spout from Kyogre, so that's really important to be able to get some Fiery Wrath chip and then potentially a Sucker Punch to really reduce the amount of damage that they're going to be able to do with Water Spout. So once again, a pretty Trick Room focused team. You do have Kingdra really just as something outside of Trick Room, but your main option with this team is really going to be Trick Room. So that is the Necrozma team, and let's move on to the last one. All right, closing things out with Groudon. This is sort of the obligatory meme team, I guess, if you call it, of the month. We are bringing back some of the stuff we saw with the Zekrom team. Right? It is a similar idea, I think new and improved, because I think that team could have been a little bit better. So first of all, we do have Groudon. Groudon has a White Herb mainly for Incineroar. It has optimal HP for setting up substitutes, and then it hits hard. Groudon, I feel like, is pretty standard in what it does. We did opt for Substitute over Swords Dance. I just felt like in the long run that kind of helped more than whatever benefit we really got outside of that. Next up, I think it's worth talking about Tapu Fini. So this is similar to the Fini we used last time, trying to deal with some of the weaknesses of the Zekrom team, but it is a little bit more offensive. Important to note, it is 1 point faster than Groudon, and so what that means is you're able to go for a Nature's Madness onto something to get big damage and then finish it off with Precipice Blades in the cases where Groudon doesn't have a one-shot into that. We also do have Grass Knot mainly for opposing Kyogre as well as opposing Groudon, and then Moon Blast mainly for Urshifu. We do have a little bit more offensive prowess than last time, and that's really going to help pick up some KOs onto things like Urshifu Rapid Strike, as well as pretty much have a guaranteed knockout onto Groudon. We are able to live a lot of hits really well. Like Groudon's Precipice Blades is a 2-hit KO, but there is the fact that we are dealing damage back into you first, which you can't stop. We can take an Astral Barrage fairly well from Calyrex. We are able to survive a Grassy Glide from standard Rillaboom, which is important. And we also survive a Bullet Punch from a Choice Band Scizor. So I thought that was really sort of important. And then next up, we do have Urshifu. So this is a really, really offensive Urshifu. This is almost max attack. We have enough speed to outspeed Cherrim, which I thought was important in the mirror match. But outside of that, like, this is Choice Band. This is really just hitting as hard as you, almost as physically as you can. You have a KO onto opposing Kyogre most of the time. Like, I think even the standard Scarf variant, you will KO. You have a 2-hit KO onto Groudon, but like even still, you are able to survive a hit. You do have a 1-hit KO you have a guaranteed one-shot onto standard Entei as well. So definitely things that cause this team problems, Urshifu is able to knock them out. And also you have a pretty good chance to KO standard Incineroar even after the Intimidate. In terms of the defensive side, we do have some bulk. We are able to survive a Heat Crash from Groudon, which I thought was the most important thing just because of the fact that the mirror match can be a little bit scary. We can guaranteed survive a Flare Blitz from Incineroar, so you will win that 1v1. And then a 252 attack Entei Sacred Fire, even in the sun, is not a guaranteed one-shot onto this Urshifu. So overall offering really good survivability as well as really good offensive prowess. And then to round it out, we have Ditto. Ditto copies things. It goes really fast. It KOs them. Shedinja survives with Wonder Guard. Goes for Will-O-Wisp. Has Ally Switch because I'm a horrible person. And then Shadow Sneak for Calyrex. And then finally, we do have Chansey. Chansey does have stored power as well as Seismic Toss. Mainly because of the fact that guarantees that you will always be able to do damage into something. Where Seismic Toss Blissey isn't able to damage Calyrex. And Stored Power Chansey isn't able to damage Incineroar. Now you don't really have that problem. So these are the teams. I'll make sure to include all of the codes as well as the document in the description for people that are interested. And now, really the part that everyone cares the most about is the giveaway. So I will announce the winners from this month and then talk about the prizes for next month. So as always, just a reminder what the prizes were. So first prize was a shiny Rillaboom. Second prize was a shiny Volcarona. And third prize was a shiny Whimsicott. So our first place winner is Dr. Strin. Congratulations on winning that Rillaboom. In second place, we have some random gamer winning shiny Volcarona. So congratulations on that. And finally, third place for that shiny Whimsicott is Andila VGC. So huge congratulations to all of you. I'll make sure to reach out to you privately and set up a time to trade you those. So talking about prizes for next month, reminder how you enter. Commenting on a video gets you 1 entry, and if you share yourself using a team, that's 3 entries. The prizes are a little bit tricky just because we don't really know what Series 11 is, but I am going off the speculation that it is going to be Series 8 again. So with that in mind, first prize is going to be a shiny G-Max Colossal. Second prize is going to be a shiny G-Max Venusaur. And third prize is going to be a shiny G-Max Charizard. So really going strong with that G-Max theme, getting some big hard hitters there. But yeah, definitely make sure to let me know if you check out these teams. I hope people like them. Once again, a huge thanks to Tom and Chris for hosting these teams. Like, this would not, like I said, have been possible without them. We will be using them on the ladder, as well as some cool teams to round out the month. And yeah, look out for that. And until next time, I hope all of you are wonderful, and I'll see you then.